Hi, my name's Sydney. I'm a secondary education major. I'm a junior. I'm going to be talking about my future classroom and what I hope for it to be like. For the physical aspect of it, I want to make sure that the kids have a view of the board, because I know sometimes when I was in high school or in classrooms that some of the seats were kind of hard to see the board from, so I want to make sure that isn't an issue. I'm a big fan of putting like desks in groups, like 4 or 5 depending on the class size. I feel like it's easier to split them into groups and then also have them work together and stuff like that, because they'll already be in like the groups, so it makes it a lot easier. And then also them being in like a group of 4 and working in a group allows them to see each other face to face, and they don't have to like turn around or move the desk and use up time moving desks because they're already being pairs. I want to have it so in most schools, at least where I'm from, it's either set up in like trimesters or quarters, and I like the idea of giving them different seats depending, like either 4 times a year or 3 times a year depending on the school. And for the first time, I'm going to give them their seats, and then during like further into the year, I'm going to hopefully put them in groups based on their learning styles. That way they're around people that learn the same and are at the same level. This way, when I'm giving out questions, I can give questions based on their learning style and their like comprehension level. Because if you have a group where one person's really like ahead and then another person's not so ahead, and you give them questions, it's either going to be really hard for one person or too easy for the next. So this is a way that, depending on the assignment, I can defer the questions without actually calling people out. I like the idea of having like a comfy area like couches, because I think that it relaxes like the whole environment, and a lot of schools tend to feel like a prison, so I'm trying to like avoid that. So with like colorful decorations and stuff like that. And then I know they also have like these light covers for the like harsh LED one that they have in like the ceiling, and they have like some that are like, it's like a cloud print, so it looks like it's like the sky, and it like just lowers the intensity of those lights, because after a long time those can be quite draining. I want to have like fairy lights to make it more like homey kind of feeling, because those lights are so harsh and they can be quite overstimulating. My goal is to have my goal is to be able to provide kids snacks if need be, because if a kid is hungry, then they're not gonna be able to focus well, and you never know like if kids have enough food. So although that might be like a little bit unrealistic, that's my goal. That's one of like the biggest things, because I know when I was hungry, like I couldn't focus. For the routine, I liked when teachers put like the daily agenda on the board, so I plan on doing that, because I feel like, especially for kids with like anxiety or just they like to know what they're doing, they'll have like a visual of what we're doing today, and then they'll be able to follow along. It also will help me keep track of everything that we're supposed to do for that day. I like routines, and I think that a routine is like a good thing, although I don't think that it should be like too routine and like the same thing every day, because obviously that gets boring. Because I've been in classrooms where we we have a routine, but it's like so repeat, it's not engaging at all. You know exactly what you're doing that day, and there's nothing exciting anymore. And I want to make sure that kids are engaged. And then another thing for routine is I want to do like a free write kind of thing in the beginning of class every day, where I'll ask them a different question, and most of the time it will be tied to what we're learning that day. Maybe Monday might be like, oh, what'd you do that weekend? And then they'll discuss it with like their friends, and then we'll discuss it as like a class. I feel like that is a good way to get them like talking, and if you get them talking in the beginning of class, it's more likely to keep them talking and to keep them intrigued throughout the class. That way that you're not just sitting with a bunch of like kids who aren't interested and not motivated. And then I also think that catch-up days are really important because it is beneficial for me, beneficial for them. And you can work on one-on-one with students, maybe especially like the students with like the IEPs if needed and stuff like that. And then it gives them time to catch up if they need it. I think that's it for that. The class climate, I want to make sure to try to address like multiple learning styles and just cater to as many as I can, especially like once I get to know my class and which types of learning styles I have, just so that I'm doing my best to help them succeed. Because if you're only doing like one certain type of learning style, then you're not helping your entire class, or at least you're not trying, because not everybody learns the same. And then giving them work based on their learning styles, which I kind of talked about with the desks, because putting them into those groups allows me to differentiate the questions if need be, as much as I can, and that way that they don't feel like they're like being, I guess, how do I word this? It's not noticed that like they're getting like a different type of thing. That way nobody feels like they're put on the spot. Because if you're with other people who have the same learning styles and level as you, then it'll be easier. And then also being positive and encouraging. I think that's a must. My whole goal is to make kids feel comfortable and have them want to come and talk to me and tell me if they're having trouble with something, if they need help. I think that's one of the most important things. I think it's important to have more low stakes assignments that are graded than high stakes, because that way when they do the high stakes assignments, if they don't do so well, then it won't really affect their grade as much, because they have the low stakes assignments that are graded, and it will cause less stress on the high stakes, because I don't believe that there should be like a high stakes assignments that's worth 50% of your grade. I think that's crazy and so stressful, and no kid needs to be put through that. Actually, nobody needs to be put through that. That's stressful. For behavior management, I'm a fan of like behavior charts. I like the idea of giving them a chart and then having them earn like stickers, like gold stars. And then once they get to a certain amount, let's say like 30, then they'll have like a movie day where I'll like bring snacks in maybe, or something like that. Or a day where they get to go out into the courtyard for the class or something like that. And that way they can see, they can see how far away or how many things that they have to earn to get to that point, and they have a goal and they can see it, and it's a visual thing. I also like the idea of like giving like Jolly Ranchers or lollipops for daily tasks like answering questions. It gets kids motivated. I know in my classes in high school when teachers would give out Jolly Ranchers, a lot more kids would want to participate and want to be engaged into the discussion because they like things like that. Obviously that depends on your district and stuff like that, but that's my hope. And then time management, I kind of talked about this a little bit. The schedule on the board, that will help me a lot, I feel, with time management, because it gives me what we're supposed to do and it will help me keep on track. And then I'm a fan of like setting timers for each thing that we're doing that day, like activity, that way that you know how much time that you're spending on each thing and you're not getting off topic. Or you can, if they're struggling with something, you're like, okay, I gotta modify this and we're gonna have to push this back or something like that. And then you can also keep your students on track as well, because if you're like, okay guys, like you have 2 more minutes left, like wrap up your conversations, then it's more likely for them to stay on track with that. That's all that I have. Yeah, that's what I want my classroom hopefully to look like as of right now.